The holographic news display flickered in the small control room as the emergency broadcast played for the third time that morning. Tejo barely looked up from his welding work as the Galactic Council representative spoke with cold authority. Unanimous decision of the Galactic Council: all draconic species are declared a threat to galactic peace. They are too dangerous to coexist with civilized species. All dragon populations must be eliminated within one solar cycle. Any world or station harboring dragons will face immediate military action. Tejo switched off his plasma torch and pushed his safety goggles up to his forehead. Sweat dripped down his face as he wiped his hands on a dirty rag. He had been working on the atmospheric processor for 6 hours straight. His back ached from bending over the complex machinery. "Idiots," he muttered, glancing at the news feed. "Bunch of scared politicians making decisions about things they don't understand." His lunar habitat sat alone on the dark side of Kepler-4 for Tessie's third moon. For 15 years this had been his home, his workshop, and his escape from everything he hated about civilized space. No bureaucrats telling him how to build things. No committees questioning his methods. No neighbors complaining about the noise from his industrial equipment. The moonbase was his masterpiece. He had designed every system himself, from the gravity generators that kept his feet on the ground to the massive atmospheric processors that could terraform entire worlds. The facility sprawled across several kilometers of lunar surface, connected by sealed tunnels and covered by energy shields that kept the harsh vacuum of space at bay. Tejo lived alone by choice. He had tried working for corporations and governments when he was younger. They always wanted him to compromise his designs, to make things cheaper or faster or more profitable. They never understood that good engineering took time and precision. So he had taken his savings, bought this worthless moon, and spent 15 years building something perfect. The news continued in the background as he returned to his work. Reports came in from across the galaxy. Dragon worlds burning under orbital bombardment. Ancient libraries containing thousands of years of dragon knowledge reduced to ash. Entire clans wiped out by galactic enforcement fleets. Tejo tried to focus on his welding, but the reports kept interrupting his concentration. He had never met a dragon personally, but he knew they were intelligent. Their engineering was different from human methods, but equally sophisticated. Some of the most elegant spacecraft designs in the galaxy came from dragon workshops. "Waste of good engineers," he grumbled, adjusting the plasma torch's settings. 3 days passed. The news grew worse. The dragons had no allies in the Galactic Council. Every major species had voted for their extermination. The official reason was public safety, but Tejo suspected the real reason was fear. Dragons were apex predators, physically powerful and mentally sharp. In a galaxy where weaker species held political power through numbers and alliances, the dragons represented an uncomfortable reminder of what strength could accomplish. On the 4th day, his long-range sensors detected something unusual. 3 ships approaching his moon from the outer system. They were moving slowly, trailing energy signatures that suggested damaged engines. The ship designs were unfamiliar, but the sensor readings matched descriptions he had seen of dragon vessels. Tejo sat in his command chair and studied the tactical display. The ships were definitely in bad shape. One was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches. Another showed signs of severe power fluctuations. The third ship seemed intact, but was broadcasting distress signals on multiple frequencies. His communication system chimed with an incoming message. The voice that came through his speakers was deep and resonant, with careful pronunciation that suggested someone speaking a language that was not their native tongue. "Unknown station, this is Veltaroth of the Flame Ridge clan. We are 3 civilian vessels carrying refugees from the Draconic Liberation. Our ships are damaged, and our people are dying. We seek only temporary shelter while we repair our vessels. We can pay for supplies and services. We mean no harm to any beings on your station." Tejo stared at the communication panel for a long moment. He had come to this moon to avoid exactly this kind of complication. He did not want refugees. Did not want responsibilities. Definitely did not want the Galactic Council's attention. "You picked the wrong place," he said into his microphone. "This is a private facility. I didn't ask for company. Find somewhere else to die quietly. The response came quickly, tinged with desperation despite the speaker's attempt to maintain dignity. Please, honored station keeper. We have searched. For 17 days, every civilized system has closed their borders to us. Your moon is the only place our scanners have detected that shows signs of habitation. We have younglings aboard our ships. They will not survive another week in space.
Oh.
Rubbed his temples. Through his main display, he could see the 3 dragon ships limping through space. They were beautiful vessels, even damaged as they were. Organic curves blended with crystalline energy conduits in ways that human engineers were still trying to understand. It seemed criminal to let such craftsmanship die in the void. Not my problem, he said, but he did not cut the communication channel. We understand your reluctance, the dragon voice continued. We know that helping us brings danger. Galactic Council will punish any who show us mercy. But we are not warriors seeking to spread destruction. We are scholars, engineers, artisans. We carry the accumulated knowledge of our people. If we die here, 10,000 years of learning dies with us. Tejo's fingers drummed against his chair's armrest. He pulled up his sensor logs and studied the approaching ships more carefully. The design principles were fascinating. Dragon engineering used biological patterns that created incredibly efficient energy flows. He had always wondered how they achieved such elegant solutions to complex problems. His long-range sensors suddenly detected new contacts. A galactic enforcement fleet, 12 ships strong, emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. They were moving fast, clearly tracking the dragon refugees. Something ugly twisted in Tejo's stomach as he watched the enforcement fleet's approach vector. They were not coming to arrest the dragons. At this distance, with this much firepower, they intended to destroy them completely. Tejo had never liked bullies. Even as a child, something in his nature rebelled against watching the strong pick on the weak. It was one of the reasons he had left civilized space in the first place. Too many people in power who used their strength to hurt others. Instead of building something useful, he looked at the tactical display again. The dragon ships would never escape the enforcement fleet. Their damaged engines could not generate enough speed for a hyperspace jump. In less than an hour, 3 ships full of refugees would become expanding clouds of superheated plasma. He muttered, reaching for his communication controls. Dragon ships, this is Tejo of Luna Station. You have 10 minutes to get inside my hangar bays before I change my mind. Follow the navigation beacons I'm transmitting. Touch anything you shouldn't, and I'll space you myself. The relief in the dragon's voice was unmistakable. Thank you, honored Tejo. We will not forget this kindness. It's not kindness, Tejo growled as he began opening his hangar doors. I just don't like watching good engineering go to waste. The first dragon ship barely fit through Tejo's largest hangar bay. The vessel scraped against the entrance with a grinding sound that made him wince. These ships were built for open space, not for squeezing into facilities designed by humans. Tejo watched from his control room as the 3 damaged vessels settled onto his landing platforms. Emergency lights flashed red across the hangar as his atmospheric systems worked to pressurize the massive space. The air recyclers groaned under the sudden demand. This is already a mistake, he muttered to himself. The ships were even more impressive. Up close, their hulls showed battle damage from the Galactic enforcement fleet that had been hunting them. Scorch marks from energy weapons cut deep gouges into their organic-looking armor. One ship had a hole in its side large enough for Tejo to walk through. The main airlock on the largest vessel opened with a soft hiss. Tejo had expected something dramatic, maybe roars or the sound of heavy footsteps. Instead, the first figure to emerge moved with careful grace. She was magnificent. Scales shifted color from deep blue to silver as she moved, catching the hangar lights in ways that seemed almost magical. She stood nearly 3 meters tall, with a long neck and intelligent eyes that reminded Tejo of his old engineering professor. Wings folded against her back like a living cloak. Behind her came others. Some were smaller, more human-sized, with shorter wings and different scale patterns. Others were massive, barely fitting through the airlock doors. All of them moved with the same careful dignity, as if they were entering a temple instead of a grimy industrial hangar. Tejo grabbed his tool belt and headed down to meet them. He was not going to hide in his control room like some scared bureaucrat. If these dragons were going to be on his station, they needed to understand the rules from the beginning. The large female dragon approached him with slow, measured steps. When she spoke, her voice filled the hangar with rich tones that seemed to vibrate through the deck plates. Honored Station Keeper Tejo, I am Velteroth, matriarch of the Flame Ridge clan. In the name of my people, I offer you our eternal gratitude. For this sanctuary, we know the great risk you have taken by sheltering us. We pledge by the ancient codes that we will honor your hospitality and defend your realm as our own. Tejo stared at her for a moment. The dragon was clearly trying to be formal and respectful, but her speech sounded like something from a history book. He was not sure how to respond to someone who talked like an ancient queen. Right, he said finally. House rules are simple. Don't touch my equipment without asking. Don't burn anything down. Don't expect me to play host or cook meals or whatever. You can stay until you figure out somewhere else to go. The dragons, behind Veltereth, whispered among themselves in their own language. It sounded like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. Tejo caught several glances that suggested his blunt response had surprised them. We understand, Veltereth said, though. Her tone suggested she did not understand at all. Perhaps we could discuss terms of formal sanctuary and establish proper protocols for our cohabitation. No protocols, Tejo said. No formal anything. Just don't break my stuff. A younger dragon stepped forward, smaller than Veltereth, but still impressive. His scales were darker, almost black, with hints of red. He moved with nervous energy, clearly eager to help. Honored engineer, the young dragon said. I am Bilho. I'm some knowledge of mechanical systems. Perhaps I could assist with repairs. To our vessels. Tejo looked at the enthusiastic young dragon and sighed. Fine, but you follow my instructions exactly. These systems are delicate. Over the next few hours, Tejo tried to find places for all the refugees to stay. His lunar base had been designed for one person, not 200 dragons of various sizes. The largest dragons could not fit in any of his corridors. Smaller ones kept bumping into equipment because they were not used to enclosed spaces. The cultural differences became obvious immediately. Dragons apparently had complex rules about who could speak to whom, in what order, and using what tone of voice. They bowed to each other constantly and seemed to have a formal response for every situation. Tejo found it exhausting. Said to Velteroth after watching her spend 10 minutes negotiating with another dragon about who should eat first. This is not a royal palace. It's a workshop. Grab some food when you're hungry. Sleep when you're tired. Work when there's work to do. Everything else is just wasted time. The dragons clearly struggled with his casual attitude. They kept trying to establish proper hierarchy and formal relationships. Tejo ignored their efforts and focused on practical problems like water recycling and power distribution. The real trouble started when young Bulejo tried to help with maintenance work. The eager dragon watched Tejo repair a damaged power coupling, then attempted to fix a similar problem on his own. Fortunately, dragon claws were not designed for delicate electronic work. Sparks flew across the corridor as the coupling overloaded. Emergency power kicked in, but the lights flickered ominously throughout the station. What did you do? Tejo demanded, rushing to the damaged system. I followed your procedure exactly, Buho protested, his scales flushing darker with embarrassment. Tejo examined the ruined coupling and groaned. You used too much pressure. These components are designed for human hands, not dragon claws. The tolerances are completely different. For the next 15 minutes, Tejo gave Yalho a detailed lecture about proper maintenance procedures, electrical safety, and the importance of understanding your tools before using them. The entire clan gathered to listen, apparently fascinated by the Grouchy human's technical knowledge. Engineering is not about being strong or fast, Tejo concluded. It's about being precise. Every component has limits. Push too hard and you break things. Ow! Don't push hard enough, and nothing works. You have to find the exact right amount of force for each job. Bilho nodded seriously, clearly absorbing every word. The other dragons watched with expressions that Tejo could not quite read. He was not used to having such an attentive audience. 3 days into their stay, the Galactic Enforcement Fleet finally arrived. 12 warships took position around Tejo's moon, their weapons trained on his facility. The communication came through on official channels, formal and threatening. Luna Station, this is Commander Park of the Galactic Enforcement Division. You are harboring illegal aliens in violation of Galactic Council Decree 7749. Surrender the dragon refugees immediately, or face the consequences. Tejo sat in his command chair and studied the tactical display. 12 ships with enough firepower to crack his moon in half. He could surrender the dragons and probably avoid punishment. The smart thing would be to apologize and claim he had been forced to help them. Instead, he opened a communication channel and gave the enforcement fleet a detailed explanation of exactly what they could do with their decree. His response included several colorful suggestions about where they could store their ultimatum, using language that would have made a dock worker blush. The fleet commander seemed shocked by the stream of creative profanity coming from the supposedly civilized human engineer. You have 1 hour to reconsider, Commander Park said stiffly. I'll give you 30 seconds to get away from my moon before I show you what happens when you threaten an engineer in his own workshop. Dragons watched in amazement as their grouchy host faced down 12 warships without showing any sign of fear. Veltaroth approached his command chair with something like wonder in her ancient eyes. Why do you risk so much for strangers? She asked quietly. Tejo glanced at her, then back at his tactical display, because somebody has to stand up to bullies. Even when the bullies have big ships and official papers. The siege began on a Tuesday morning. Commander Park's enforcement fleet settled into a blockade pattern around Tejo's moon, close enough to prevent any ships from leaving but far enough to avoid his defensive systems. They seemed content to wait and starve out the refugees. Tejo spent the first week ignoring them completely. He continued his normal routine of maintenance work, equipment testing, and system upgrades. The dragons learned quickly to stay out of his way when he was working, though they watched his every move with obvious fascination. The real problem started on the 8th day. Sojin, one of the younger dragons, collapsed in the main corridor while carrying supplies to her family. Her scales had lost their natural shine and taken on a grayish color that worried the elder dragons. Veltaroth brought the issue to Tejo while he was calibrating his atmospheric processors. Our people are becoming ill, she said without her usual formal speech. We need specific minerals that our homeworld provided. Without them, our bodies cannot process nutrients properly. Tejo looked up from his work. What kind of minerals? Crystalline compounds containing vanadium, molybdenum, and trace amounts of rare earth elements. Our digestive systems evolved to require them. The food supplies we brought are running low, and what remains lacks the proper mineral content. Long before it becomes serious, the younglings will begin showing severe symptoms within days. The adults can survive longer, but not much longer. Tejo studied the readouts on his atmospheric processor. The machine was designed to create breathable air from raw materials, but its chemical synthesis capabilities went far beyond simple oxygen production. With modifications, it could theoretically produce any compound he programmed into its molecular database. I need complete biochemical specifications, he said. Exact molecular structures, required concentrations, everything. Veltaroth looked surprised. You believe you can synthesize what we need? I don't believe anything. I'll know after I run the numbers. That evening, Tejo found himself working with Gingmin, an elderly dragon who served as the clan's chief scholar. The old dragon's knowledge was impressive, covering everything from advanced chemistry to stellar engineering. He provided detailed specifications for the minerals dragons needed, explaining the biological processes involved with scientific precision. Your species is more complex than I thought, Tejo admitted as he studied the data. These mineral requirements are incredibly specific. We are an old race, Gangmin replied. Our bodies evolved over millions of years to extract maximum efficiency from our environment. It makes us strong but also dependent on precise conditions. Tejo worked through the night, reprogramming his atmospheric processors to handle the new synthesis requirements. The machines would need significant modifications to handle the complex molecular structures dragons required by the third week. More dragons were showing symptoms. Donghan Sojin's clutchmate developed scale rot that spread across his left wing. 2 of the adult dragons became too weak to maintain their normal activities. Taeho threw himself into the work with an intensity that surprised even him. He installed additional processing units, upgraded the molecular synthesizers, and created new distribution systems to deliver the synthesized minerals throughout the station. "Why are you doing this?" Veltereth asked one morning as she found him asleep at his workbench, tools scattered around him. "Because the noise you all make when you're dying is annoying," he grumbled, not looking up from his latest modification. "I just want some peace and quiet." But his actions spoke louder than his words. When young Biolho collapsed during a maintenance lesson, Taeho dropped everything to carry the dragon to the medical bay he had hastily constructed. He worked for 40 straight hours to perfect a concentrated treatment, testing and retesting the formula until he was certain it would work. The injection system was tricky. Dragon scales were tough, designed to deflect energy weapons and physical impacts. Taeho had to design a special delivery method that could penetrate their natural armor without causing damage. "This might hurt," he warned Biolho as he prepared the first injection. "I trust you, honored engineer," the young dragon replied weakly. The treatment worked. Within hours, Biolho's scales began to regain their natural color. His breathing improved and his strength started returning. Word spread quickly through the dragon community. Soon Taeho found himself administering treatments to dozens of refugees. The entire clan watched there supposedly. Heartless hosts saved their children's lives through pure engineering skill and stubborn determination. Taeho explained the medical theory behind each treatment, describing how the synthesized minerals would restore proper biological function. "You could have let us die," Veltereth observed as Taeho finished treating the last patient. "That would have been wasteful," he replied, cleaning his equipment with practiced efficiency. "You're all intelligent beings. Letting intelligence die is stupid." During the 4th week, the Galactic Council sent negotiators. Agent Mi Young arrived on a diplomatic vessel, requesting permission to board Taeho's station. She was a professional, bureaucrat with a perfect smile and carefully practiced sympathy. "Mr. Taeho, the Council recognizes your humanitarian instincts, but you must understand the larger picture. These dragons represent a threat to galactic stability. We're prepared to offer you substantial compensation for your cooperation." Taeho listened to her pitch while continuing his work on a new mineral synthesizer. She offered wealth, prestigious engineering positions, even his own research facility, funded by the Council. "How much?" he asked when she finished. 50 million. Galactic credits plus the research position. Taeho looked up from his work and gave her a detailed technical explanation of exactly where she could store her offer. His response included creative suggestions about the physical impossibility of her proposal and several observations about her ancestors that were both anatomically incorrect and deeply insulting. Agent Mi Young left quickly, her professional composure badly shaken. The dragons had overheard the entire conversation. Elder Namseek, one of the clan's senior members, approached Taeho afterward with obvious respect. "You refused great wealth to protect us," the old dragon said. "I refused stupid money from stupid people," Taeho corrected. "There's a difference." But the dragons understood the real meaning of his refusal. Their grouchy host had been offered everything he could want in exchange for betraying them, and he had chosen their safety over his own benefit without hesitation. That night, the clan held a ceremony in the main hangar, as they spoke in their own language for most of it, but Taeho understood enough to realize they were formally declaring him something important. When they switched to standard galactic speech for his benefit, Veltereth's words were simple and profound. "Taeho of Luna's Station, keeper of the Flame Ridge clan, we pledge our lives to your protection as you have pledged yours to ours." Taeho shifted uncomfortably during the ceremony, muttering complaints about dragon bureaucracy and unnecessary paperwork. But he stayed through the entire ritual, and when no one was looking, he quietly recorded the whole thing on his personal data The blockade continued, but something had changed. The dragons were no longer just refugees waiting to leave. They had found something they had not expected in the cold reaches of space. A new home. Protected by the most unlikely guardian in the galaxy. A grouchy human engineer, who claimed he just wanted them to stop making noise. The second month brought unexpected changes to Tejo's carefully ordered world. Instead of growing frustrated with his dragon guests, he found himself making permanent improvements to accommodate them. What started as temporary fixes became major construction projects. The dragons were too large for his original corridors, so Tejo began expanding the tunnel systems. He installed wider passages with higher ceilings, designed to let even the largest clan members move comfortably through the station. The work required precision blasting through solid rock and careful installation of structural supports. HYEON-WU proved to be an excellent partner for the construction work. The dragon engineer understood Tejo's designs almost instantly and offered improvements based on dragon building techniques. Together, they developed hybrid construction methods that neither species could have achieved alone. "Your gravity systems are too rigid," Hyen Wu observed while they worked on a new living section. "They fight against natural movement." Dragon engineering uses flexible fields that adapt to the user's needs. Tejo studied the dragon's suggestions with growing interest. "Show me how that would work with human power systems." The collaboration produced remarkable results. They created gravity systems that could accommodate flight within the station's corridors. Dragons could soar through the expanded tunnels while humans walked normally on designated pathways. The atmospheric processors were upgraded to handle the complex air currents created by flying beings. The environmental controls became increasingly sophisticated. Different dragon subspecies required slightly different atmospheric conditions. Some preferred higher humidity, others needed specific gas mixtures. Tejo designed modular environmental zones that could adjust automatically based on who was using each area. The most surprising development came when Tejo discovered that some of the dragons were preparing to lay eggs. Veltaroth approached him with obvious embarrassment about what she clearly considered an imposition. "Honored Keeper, we did not expect our stay to extend into mating season. 3 of our females are with egg. We understand if you cannot accommodate this additional burden." Tejo looked at the matriarch for a long moment. "How big are dragon eggs? What kind of environmental conditions do they need?" "Each egg is approximately 1 meter in diameter. They require stable temperature, specific humidity levels, and protection from vibration during the incubation period." "Incubation time?" "For months." Tejo nodded and walked away without another word. Veltareth assumed he was rejecting her request, but 3 days later, he showed her the completed nursery section. He had constructed specialized incubation chambers with precise environmental controls, backup life support systems, and even a small garden area where the parent dragons could tend their eggs in peace. "This is magnificent," Veltareth breathed, examining the sophisticated life support systems. "But surely this was a tremendous expense in time and materials." "Eggs are delicate," Tejo replied with a shrug. "They need proper care or they don't hatch." Basic biology. The eggs were laid a week later in a ceremony that filled the nursery with dragon songs that resonated through the station's corridors. Tejo tried to work through the celebration, but the haunting melodies kept distracting him. Finally, he gave up and went to watch, claiming he needed to monitor the environmental systems. As the weeks passed, Tejo found himself checking on the nursery regularly. He told himself he was just maintaining the equipment, but the truth was more complex. He had never been responsible for new life before, and the weight of protecting the developing dragons affected him more than he cared to admit. The eggs hatched on a Tuesday morning. Tejo heard the commotion from his workshop and arrived at the nursery to find 3 tiny dragons emerging from their shells. They were no bigger than house cats, with oversized eyes and scales that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. "Gat." "So small," he said, staring at the hatchlings. "All great dragons start small," Veltarath replied, gently helping one of her grandchildren out of its shell. "They will grow quickly with proper care." The hatchlings imprinted on their surroundings. immediately accepting Tejo as part of their extended family. They followed him around the station, skidding underfoot while he worked and asking endless questions about everything they saw. "Uncle Engineer, why does this machine make noise?" asked Hay-1, the most curious of the three hatchlings. "Molecular synthesizer," Tejo explained patiently.
Ow.
"The noise comes from the particle accelerators inside. They break down raw materials and rebuild them into whatever we need. Can it make toys? It can make anything if you program it correctly, but toys are a waste of good materials." Despite his gruff words, Tejo found himself fabricating small mechanical puzzles for the hatchlings to play with. He claimed they were educational tools to teach proper engineering principles. But the young dragons treated them as the finest toys in the galaxy. The defensive capabilities of the station grew more sophisticated as well. Hien-Wu and Tejo worked together to integrate dragon tactical knowledge with human engineering innovation. They installed weapon systems that could disable attacking ships without destroying them, and developed shield generators that could protect the entire moon from orbital bombardment. When the Galactic Council attempted a military probe of their defenses, 12 assault ships found themselves disabled and drifting helplessly in space within minutes. The weapons had targeted their engines and navigation systems with surgical precision, leaving the crews unharmed but completely helpless. "How did you do that?" Commander Park demanded over the communication system. "Trade secret," Tejo replied. "Maybe you should have thought about that before threatening my station." The disabled ships were eventually recovered by other council vessels, but the message was clear. Tejo's lunar base had become effectively impregnable through the combination of human innovation and dragon tactical expertise. Other human colonies began reaching out quietly, requesting information about Tejo's terraforming technology. The dragons, now serving as unofficial ambassadors, negotiated these exchanges with careful attention to their hosts' privacy preferences. "We receive many requests for your atmospheric processing designs," Veltarth informed him one day. 17. "Human colonies wish to purchase licenses for your technology." "Not for sale," Tejo replied immediately. "They offer substantial payment." I said, "Not for sale. I didn't build this technology to make money." But after thinking about it for several days, Tejo developed a different approach. He began offering technical consultation services, teaching other engineers how to build their own atmospheric processors rather than selling them ready-made systems. "If they want the technology, they can learn to build it properly," he explained to Hien-Wu. "Anyone can copy a design. Understanding why it works is harder." Elder Nam-Sik established informal classes in the station's common areas, teaching engineering principles to young dragons and humans alike. The lessons covered everything from basic mechanics to advanced stellar engineering. Combining dragon theoretical knowledge with human practical experience, Tejo observed these classes while pretending to work on other projects, occasionally interrupting two correct theoretical errors with hands-on demonstrations. The students, both dragon and human, learned to value his practical insights as much as Nam-Sik's scholarly wisdom. "You are building something unprecedented," Veltarth observed one evening as they watched a mixed group of students working on a complex engineering project. "I'm just keeping them busy so they don't break anything expensive," Tejo replied, but his tone lacked conviction. The truth was becoming impossible to deny even to himself. He was no longer just providing temporary shelter to refugees. It was building a permanent home for a community that included some of the galaxy's finest minds. And despite his complaints about the noise and complications, he had never been happier with his work. The first unexpected visitors arrived on a quiet Thursday morning. Tejo's sensors detected a small ship approaching from the outer system, broadcasting refugee identification codes. The vessel was clearly not of dragon design. Its crystalline structure reflecting light in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "More company," Tejo muttered as he watched the ship's approach. "This is not a charity. I'm not running a refugee camp." But when the crystalline beings explained their situation over the communication system, their story sounded familiar. The Galactic Council had declared their species too dangerous after a mining accident revealed their ability to process raw energy directly. Now they faced the same extinction order that threatened the dragons. We heard rumors of a human who Defies the council, their spokesperson said in a voice like wind chimes. We seek only temporary shelter while we search for a new home. Teho looked at Velterith, who had joined him in the control room. The dragon matriarch's expression was thoughtful. They have nowhere else to go, she said quietly, just as we had nowhere to go. My station wasn't designed for crystalline life forms, Teho protested. They probably need completely different environmental conditions. Then we will help you modify the systems, Haiyan Wu offered. We have learned much about adaptation in recent months. Despite his complaints, Teho found himself expanding the station once again. Crystalline beings who called themselves the Luminari required high-energy environments and could actually feed on electrical current. They proved incredibly useful for maintaining the station's power systems, as they could work directly with high-voltage equipment that would kill other species. 2 weeks later, a ship full of gaseous entities arrived. They had been declared too unstable for civilized space after a diplomatic incident involving accidental atmospheric poisoning. Their ship was essentially a giant pressure vessel, and they communicated through controlled chemical emissions. This is getting ridiculous. Teho complained as he designed new atmospheric containment systems for the gaseous refugees. I came here to work alone, not to build a circus. But the gaseous entities, who called themselves the Nebula Collective, brought unique insights into propulsion technology. Their natural ability to manipulate gas dynamics led to breakthrough improvements in Teho's atmospheric processors and engine designs. More refugees followed. Sectoid species fleeing persecution brought advanced metallurgy techniques. Life forms contributed biological engineering knowledge. Machine intelligences, escaping shutdown orders, offered computational innovations. Each new group created challenges that forced Teho to expand his engineering capabilities. The station grew from a simple lunar base into a complex multi-environment habitat, capable of supporting dozens of different life forms simultaneously. I need more space, Teho announced during one of the evening planning sessions that had become routine, and more power, and probably more raw materials. We could excavate additional chambers in the moon's core, suggested Corvain, the dragon tactical specialist. Oh, my people have experience with large-scale underground construction. The Luminari could provide enhanced power generation, added. Their representative, a being whose crystalline form pulsed with contained energy. We require high electrical output for our survival. Surplus energy could power expanded operations. The Nebula Collective offers atmospheric processing capabilities beyond current systems, chimed in their spokesperson through a carefully modulated gas. A mission what emerged from these collaborative planning sessions was unlike anything that had existed before in the galaxy. Each species contributed their unique abilities to solve problems that would have been impossible for any single group to handle alone. The dragons provided tactical knowledge and overall coordination. The Luminar handled power systems and electrical engineering. The gaseous entities managed atmospheric processing and propulsion systems. The insectoids created advanced materials and precision manufacturing. The plant-based species handled biological systems and food production. Teho found himself coordinating the galaxy's most sophisticated underground engineering collective while claiming he just wanted some peace and quiet to work on his projects. Galactic Council took notice of the growing refugee settlement. They sent larger fleets to establish a more complete blockade, but discovered that their ships could not approach the moon without being disabled by weapon systems they could not understand or counter. The defensive technologies combined insights from all the refugee species. Dragon tactical knowledge guided targeting systems powered by Luminari energy manipulation and controlled by gaseous entity fluid dynamics calculations. Insectoid materials science created armor that could withstand weapons designed by plant-based biological engineering. How are they doing this? Commander Park demanded during a strategy session broadcast on open channels. Every time we develop a countermeasure, they adapt faster than our computers can calculate. Perhaps because they have something we lack, observed Agent Myung, who had returned with a larger diplomatic team. Cooperation between species with fundamentally different approaches to problem-solving. The refugee settlement began attracting attention from unexpected sources. Their human colony started reaching out quietly. offering support and requesting access to the advanced technologies being developed. Captain Woojin of the Frontier Colony ship Determination contacted Taeho. Directly using encrypted channels? "We've been watching your situation with great interest," he said during a private communication. "Many human settlements are tired of council overreach. We'd like to establish trade relationships with your facility." "What kind of trade?" asked suspiciously. "Raw materials and manufactured goods in exchange for copies of your terraforming technology. Some of our colonies are struggling with atmospheric problems that your systems could solve." Taeho looked around his crowded control room. Dragons worked alongside crystalline beings and gaseous entities, coordinating complex engineering projects with casual efficiency that would have amazed galactic scientists. No direct technology transfer, he decided. But I could take on some consulting work. Teach your engineers how to build their own systems. The trade relationships grew quickly. Human colonies provided raw materials, rare elements, and manufactured components. In exchange, Taeho's team offered engineering consultation, technical training, and problem-solving services that no other facility in the galaxy could match. Elder Namseek expanded his educational programs to include remote learning for students from human colonies. Young engineers from across human space began requesting placement in his technical academy, eager to learn from the multi-species engineering collective. "We are creating something unprecedented," Veltereth observed during one of their evening reviews. "A center of learning and innovation that draws from the knowledge of many species." "I just wanted to fix atmospheric processors," Taeho grumbled. But he was clearly proud of what they had accomplished. The station now housed over 800 beings from 23 different species. What had started as a simple refugee shelter had become the galaxy's premier independent research facility and the center of a growing network of colonies that valued cooperation over council authority. And at the heart of it all was one Grouchy, a human engineer who insisted he just wanted everyone to stop making so much noise so he could get some work done. 2 years after the first dragon refugees arrived at his lunar base, Taeho stood in the observation deck of what had become the most important independent facility in known space. Through the reinforced windows, he watched construction crews working on the fourth moon in their growing network of habitats. The original lunar base now housed over 1,500 beings from 47 different species. 3 additional moons had been converted into specialized facilities. 1 for advanced research, 1 for manufacturing, and 1 dedicated entirely to education and cultural exchange. "Uncle Engineer, look what I built," called Hay-1, now grown to the size of a small shuttle. The young dragon approached, carrying a complex mechanical device that pulsed with contained energy. Taeho examined the device with professional interest. "What does it do?" "It's a gravity manipulator based on your original designs. But I added luminary energy processing and nebula collective fluid dynamics," Hay-1 explained proudly. "It can create localized gravity fields that adapt automatically to whatever species is using them." "Not bad," Taeho admitted, though. His tone suggested high praise. "The power coupling needs work, but the basic theory is sound." Hay-1 beamed at the compliment. Like all the young beings raised in the multi-species community, she thought of technological innovation as a collaborative art form. Her generation worked easily with concepts that had taken their elders years to understand. The political situation in the galaxy had changed dramatically over the past 2 years. The Galactic Council faced growing opposition from member species tired of authoritarian policies and extinction orders. Several major human colonies had openly defied council authority, and other species were beginning to question the wisdom of eliminating entire races based on fear. The breaking point came when 3 council member species requested asylum at Taeho's facility. Their representatives arrived with detailed documentation of corruption, illegal weapons development, and plans for systematic genocide that went far beyond the Dragon Extermination Order. Agent Mi Young, now working as an independent investigator, rather than a council representative, presented the evidence during a galaxy-wide broadcast from the station's communication center. "The Galactic Council has violated their own foundational laws," she announced to billions of viewers across known space. "They have planned the systematic elimination of over 200 species, deemed inconvenient to their political goals. The revelation sparked widespread protests and calls for council reform. Several member species withdrew from council authority entirely, while others demanded immediate changes to prevent further genocidal policies. Faced with potential complete dissolution, the council leadership agreed to negotiate. They officially recognized the sovereignty of Tejo's settlement network in exchange for access to the revolutionary technologies being developed there. The formal ceremony took place in the main hangar of the original lunar base. Broadcast live. Across the galaxy, council representatives, refugee leaders, and independent colony delegates gathered to sign the historic agreement. Tejo stood at the back of the crowd, wearing his usual work clothes and looking deeply uncomfortable with all the formal proceedings. When called forward to sign the sovereignty agreement, he approached the ceremonial table with obvious reluctance. This document recognizes the independent status of the Luna Settlement Network, announced the council secretary. The responsibilities of governance for this territory and its inhabitants. I just fix things when they break, Tejo replied, causing nervous laughter from the assembled dignitaries. But if it means everyone leaves me alone to do my work, then fine. He signed his name with the same matter-of-fact efficiency he brought to all his tasks. Then returned to his position at the back of the room. The dragons had established permanent nests throughout all 4 moons, their children now numbering in the hundreds, grew up speaking multiple languages and thinking in terms that no single species had ever imagined. They called themselves the Bridge Generation. Equally comfortable with dragon honor codes, human engineering principles, and the unique perspectives of dozens of other species. Velterith now serving as the official diplomatic coordinator for the settlement network found Tejo in his workshop after the ceremony concluded. The ancient dragon matriarch moved more slowly these days, but her eyes remained sharp and intelligent. "Do you ever regret your decision to help us?" she asked, as she watched him work on his latest project. Tejo looked up from the complex device he was assembling. It appeared to be some kind of terraforming system, but far more advanced than anything he had built before. "Regret is a waste of time," he said. "Can't change what already happened. You can only decide what to do next." "And what will you do next?" Tejo gestured toward the technical specifications spread across his workbench. "The 4th moon needs better atmospheric processors. The research station is requesting upgrades to their laboratory facilities. The manufacturing facility wants to expand production capacity. And apparently, we have 17 colonies requesting consultation on terraforming projects. That sounds like a great deal of work. Someone has to fix things when the universe breaks them." Tejo replied with a slight smile. "Might as well be me." Through the workshop windows, the lights of the settlement network sparkled against the darkness of space. Construction ships moved between the moons, carrying materials and workers for the next expansion phase. Communication beacons transmitted lessons and technical data to colonies across human space and beyond. Young Donghaeon, now a respected engineer in his own right, entered the workshop carrying datapads full of new project requests. Behind him came a mixed group of students from 6 different species, all eager to learn from the legendary Grouchy engineer who had accidentally created the galaxy's most successful multi-species civilization. "Uncle Engineer, we have finished the analysis you requested," Donghaeon announced. "The new gravity systems will increase efficiency by 37% while reducing power consumption by half." "Good work," Tejo said, examining their calculations. "But the harmonic frequencies need adjustment. Work with the Luminary engineers to optimize the energy patterns." As the students scattered to implement his suggestions, Elder Namseek approached. With his usual quiet wisdom, "Your settlement has become something unprecedented in galactic history," the old dragon observed. "A place where cooperation overcomes fear, where diversity creates strength instead of conflict." "I just wanted everyone to stop making so much noise," Tejo grumbled, but his tone lacked real complaint. The truth was obvious to everyone who knew him. The grouchy human engineer had found his true calling not in solitary work, but in solving the impossible problems that arose when different species tried to build something together. His workshop had become the heart of a community that proved the galaxy's greatest challenges could be overcome through stubborn determination and willingness to help those who needed it. Outside, the stars shone down on 4 moons full of beings who had found something precious in the cold depths of space, a home built by the most unlikely hero in the galaxy. An engineer who insisted he just wanted to fix things when they broke.